In topic 08, we're going to be factoring quadratic trinomials. Factoring is the reverse of multiplication, so you're finding out what you multiplied to get an expression. Today we're going to focus on factoring when the a is equal to 1. So here we have x squared plus bx plus c. A is usually the number in front of x squared, but here it's a 1. If you look at the example on the right, the factors of x squared plus 6x plus 8 are x plus 4 and x plus 2. Because if you were to multiply x plus 4 times x plus 2, you would get x squared plus 6x plus 8. Here we have our steps for factoring when a is 1. So first we set up our factors, and we make a list of numbers that multiply to c. C is the last term in your expression. And then you want to see which of those pairs on that list add or subtract to b, which is the middle term on your expression. And then you can complete your factors. So I start by setting up my factors. So here we're factoring. So I'm going to set up my parentheses, and I'm going to put an x in each one. And that's because x times x is x squared. Remember what we're figuring out, what we multiplied to get our expression. Now I'm going to set up my blanks. Blank times blank equals c, which is our 6. And blank plus blank equals b, which is 5, our middle number. So again, this is a, b, and c. Now I'm going to make a list of numbers that multiply to c. So that multiply to 6. So for 6, you could do 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. And we want to see which pair on that list will add or subtract to 5. So here, both of them can add or subtract to get 5, but since everything's positive, I'm going to use 2 and 3. And then we can do our check here. 2 times 3 is 6, 2 plus 3 is 5. So that means these numbers work for our factors. So in my first factor, I'm going to fill it in now. We have x and a positive 2. And our second factor, I'm going to fill in the positive 3. So our factors are x plus 2 times x plus 3. And if you check, if you were to multiply everything here, you would get x squared plus 5x plus 6. For the next problem, I'm going to set up my factors. And I'm going to start each one with x, because x times x will give us x squared. Then I do my blanks. Remember your first blank, the multiplication equals c, which is your last number there. And the second blank equals b, which here is a negative 4. I'm going to make a list of numbers that multiply to 3. The only numbers that multiply to 3 are 1 and 3. So we already know that our factors are going to have a 1 and a 3. But here we have to be careful, because on the bottom we want negative 4. That means that either one or both of our numbers are going to have to be negative. The easiest way to remember this is if you have to add your numbers, then they'll both be negative. If you have to subtract them, one will. So here to get 4, since you have to do 1 plus 3, that means they have to be the same signs. So negative 1 plus negative 3 is negative 4. And if you multiply negative 1 times negative 3, it becomes positive 3. So now this works for both of our blanks. So I'm going to fill in a negative 1 and a negative 3 in my factors. So my factors are x minus 1 times x minus 3. For the next problem, I'm going to set up my blanks. This time they're using the letter a. So a and a, because that will give me a squared. I'm going to set up my blanks here. So blank times blank equals c, which is negative 36. And blank plus blank equals b, which is 9. Now I'm going to make a list of numbers that multiplies to give me 36. I'm not worrying about the negative yet. So I could use 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, or 6 and 6. So I made a list of numbers that will give me 36 when multiplied. I want to know which numbers from this list add or subtract to 9. So if I look at my numbers here, if we subtract 12 and 3, we'll get a 9. So I'm going to fill in my blanks with a 3 and a 12. Now I can worry about which one's negative. So if you want to use 3 and 12 to get 9, you would have to subtract. That means only one of them has to be negative. And you always keep the sign of the bigger number. So since our number here is a positive 9, that means that the bigger number has to be positive as well. So the 3 will be negative. And if we check, negative 3 plus 12 is 9. Negative 3 times 12 is negative 36. So my factors are a minus 3 and a plus 12 because I'm filling in the negative 3 and the positive 12. On the last one here, I'm going to set up my factors. So my parentheses, this time we're going to use the letter N. And now I can do my blanks. The first one's going to equal negative 20. And the second one, the one with the addition, is going to equal the negative 8. I'm going to make a list of numbers that multiplies to 20. So again, I don't worry about the negative yet. So 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. And now I need to choose which pair from that list will add or subtract to give me an 8. Well, if you subtract 10 minus 2, you get 8. So I'm going to use 2 and 10 for my pair. Now I can worry about the negatives. I want negative 8, so that means my bigger number, or both, have to be negative. So since we have to subtract, that means one of them is negative, and my bigger number, negative 10, would work. 2 plus negative 10 is negative 8, and 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. So now if I fill in my factors, I'll fill in a positive 2 and a negative 10. So I have n plus 2 and n minus 10.